Hey folks, Andy here. I hope you're fitting well. Right, it's now been round about 2 weeks since Jim Lill rolled the hand grenade of his mic preamp video out into YouTube. And good grief, the argument and the debate is still ongoing. Now, the gist of his video is that he takes some vintage 31105 Neve preamps and does a whole bunch of scientific and engineering tests and conclusively proves that they sound absolutely identical under all circumstances to the preamps in a modern Focusrite Scala interface. And this is kind of quite shocking given that one set of preamps is multi-thousands of dollars and the other is hundreds of dollars. And there has been an enormous pushback against this. The pushback is generally against the concept that all preamps sound the same. Now, it's a 40-odd minute video, and I'm not sure that Jim actually does say all preamps sound the same. I think what he says is these preamps sound the same. Ironically, that came out very shortly after Andrew Chapman put out a video where he compares the clones of a bunch of 1073 Neve preamps and says, here how different all of these sound, tell me which ones you prefer. So the argument that all preamps sound the same doesn't even get off the ground. It goes absolutely nowhere. I think that Jim's argument is very well made, but needs to be put into a context. And this is the important thing. The 31105s that he is testing were introduced in the mid-1970s, and 1970s recording was lossy. You'd record 3 console preamps, and all those lovely transformers that we used to warm up sounds in the digital era would be there for proper engineering purposes like gain and balancing signals, that sort of thing. You would go through your preamps, out from your desk, you'd record onto tape, you'd get losses from recording onto tape. If you had to bounce things on the tape to get more track content, then you'd get generational losses on the tape. You'd get more losses when you came back into your console. You'd go through the channels, you'd mix through those lovely chewy EQs. You'd move your signal through different buses. You might go out of the console again into studio outboard gear compressors, things like that. Come back into the console, you might go through to your master bus, you get your mix sorted out, and then you push out and you record onto tape yet again. So every step of the way along, you are turning your pristine signals into different shades of mud. Rupert Neve was trying to build electronics to work in that environment. And so he was building pretty much no expense spared, super pristine hi-fi to the standards of the day audio electronics. Now, consider that you have got a decades-old desk, and consider that you are going to go out and build a clone of a preamp. So whatever that desk is, you might sit down and you might start recording, and you might start at channel 1 and you work your way through. Those channels have electronics in them that might have been maintained to the highest standard, they might have been neglected, they might have been modified, they could be somewhere in between. And they will have drifted off spec because they've got a lot of components in them that have gone through innumerable heat cycles, innumerable hours of operation. They will drift. They'll have started off different, the tolerances on components, however fine. By the time you've got the amount of circuitry that you've got in one of those old desks, you're going to get differences between channels. So you go along and you go, yep, that's lovely. And then on whatever source you're testing on, say you're testing on a snare, you put the next one up and go, wow, that one channel on that one desk sounds amazing. And this is where we get legendary desks, things like the Sound City Neve that Dave Grohl made so famous. It's famous because it's different. Otherwise, it would just be another Neve desk. So you're going to go along and you're going to find a particular channel that sounds absolutely amazing to you. And if you are there to clone a preamp, you're going to pick that channel. If that characteristic is really nice, that sounds great on a voice, or that sounds great on a snare or a kick drum, and therefore you're going to exaggerate it. And what you get is this kind of group polarization thing that happens, whereby the differences start to get pushed out so that people say that's the best sounding 1073, 31105, SSL, API, whatever it is. And now in the world of audio interfaces, we find that lots of manufacturers make their high fidelity electronics the standard, and then they put a modifier button that is intended to bring back the mojo of those out of spec desks. So if you buy an SSL interface, for instance, you get the 4K button. Focusrite has, is it Air? Neve has Silk, and so on and so forth. All intended to get that, hey, look, it's just pushing the envelope a little bit into that different arena. I've seen a lot of comments on audio interfaces like this where people say, I bought it because of this, and after a while I just turn it off and use everything as clean as it can be. And certainly on my personal journey, I've gone from thinking that my ideal would be a whole bunch of funky 1073 preamps to thinking, actually just give me some Grace preamps that are super high headroom that just get out of the way and do the job. I have over there some preamps that a friend of mine designed way back in the day, and the spec for those was that they were supposed to be pristine high headroom, so they don't have funky transformers and things like that in them. They are electronically balanced, and they do a superb job because you can set them in the middle of their range and they just make signals bigger. They take nothing away from it. If you push those preamps, they sound pretty horrible, but that's not what they were intended for. They just do a great job. But you know what? The preamps on my RMA interface do the similar sort of thing. The preamps that I got from BLA, my auteurs, the original models that have got the bunched up gain control and that are noisy, they do a very similar thing as long as you use them well. So that's where I land on doing this. I think that Jim's argument is correct, but so narrow that it's not particularly useful. I think he snipes his content a bit. I think he's made a very divisive video, which is probably quite clever because I imagine that he's got huge numbers of views that are driven by his own reputation and then by 2 weeks worth of responses to his video. And it's probably generated quite a nice amount of income. So very clever, very nicely done, Jim. But I think that if the question we're asking is, do preamps sound the same? We should maybe be thinking, no, they don't, but it matters much less than we think it does. And then get on and just don't worry about it. Okay, that's where I sit on this one. I'll see you next time out. Until then, look after yourselves. Bye for now.